All right, welcome back to Gen X DC. This is the place where we talk about all things Washington, D.C. in the 70s and 80s. I am Spencer White, joined by
I'm Dan Lucoda.
Dan. Today, we are going to be talking about remember when moments. You know, when I was growing up, I always heard my mom would say where she was. She was at the University of Maryland when Kennedy got shot.
Okay, yes.
And you hear different things like that. Well, in the 70s and 80s, I got to thinking, where was I when certain events took place? And the first one to come to my mind, this would have been 1982, January 13th, 1982. Air Florida Flight 90 was coming out of National Airport, and it hit the 14th Street Bridge.
Okay, yes.
And that is something I'm never going to forget. I remember I was in my house in Adelphi. We were getting ready to go to school for some type of concert or play or something, but it was snowing real hard, so they had just canceled it. And I was listening to WMAL, your station,
Yeah.
and I remember them saying all Prince George's County activities are closed. So I'm thinking, oh, we're home the rest of the night. But then I hear a plane just went into the 14th Street Bridge. And when I first heard it, I thought a little tiny plane must have gone into the 14th Street Bridge. Maybe there was, one or two people, but they jumped out maybe, and everybody would be fine. But then they kept interrupting it.
Yes.
And so we turned on Channel 9, and Channel 9 started talking about it. They weren't live there just yet, but they were talking about it. All of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, this is a 747 coming out of National Airport. This is a real big plane.
Yeah, 737, not quite the huge.
736, yeah. So we had, 79 people passed away during that time. And I think it was like 5 or 6 survived. But it was freezing out. It was snowing, the cold weather. And the one thing that I'll never forget about it was there was a guy who was on the side. There was a lady in the water, and she was trying to hold on to like a life preserver. And the helicopter was dropping it down to her, and she kept missing it. And she kept missing it. And it was like, please, hold on to it. Yeah. And finally she just let go, and it looked like she was just giving up. And there's this guy, Lenny Stutnick, and at the time I called him Superman.
Yeah.
Because I'd never seen anything like this, like a real life superhero jump into the water, and he dove in and he got this lady and took her out. And that's something I'm never gonna forget about that incident.
There was actually a 6th passenger that survived the crash.
Right.
But they kept putting down the life preserve to gather another victim of the crash.
Right.
Another survivor, and he kept passing it. And by the time it got to him, he had already, lost because of hypothermia, lost his life. That's another hero from that incident. Crazy.
So just so many heroes along, obviously, with the police officers, the firefighters, and all that. I mean, it just a sad situation. Something every January 13th I remember 1982.
Yeah.
And what I was doing. So what about you? What's one of your moments?
I have to go with, along the same lines of, keeping it to DC, was March 30th, 1981. You had Ronald Reagan was at the Washington Hilton to do a simple, speech to a union that was there. I'm a middle schooler. I'm in 8th grade. I go to use a telephone up in our lobby to phone home because practice had gotten canceled that day. And I remember going up to the payphone, and this beautiful girl in my class, Danielle, she said to me, "Oh, it's going to take you a little while to get a dial tone because the president's been shot."
Oh, like, wow.
What? I'd never heard that before, even a dial tone taking time to get on a payphone.
Right.
Time. But turns out, Reagan's at the Washington Hilton at Connecticut and T Street. He's actually
across from the health department, right around there. Yeah.
Everyone knows the story. He was shot by John Hinckley Jr. But for me, that was one of the first things to stand out of like, whoa, because I'd always heard about JFK.
Right.
And, my mom, like your mom, knew where she was. My dad knew where he was. But I'm like, whoa, the president. And then everything kind of went crazy at school. You could feel that like tension. And I just wanted to get home because I was a news junkie. I wanted to see what was happening, what was going on. Is he going to be okay? And, it turned out he was. It was a close call for him, but it was something of that significance. Like, wow, this doesn't happen. Yes, it does happen, kind of thing. Here we go again. Someone's being assassinated, but thank goodness he made through it.
I remember a lot of kids talking. I was in the 5th grade, and the teacher came in and said, all right, calm down. Yes, the president has been shot. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
and we didn't even watch it. We didn't watch it on TV or anything like that. They kept us from it. So I don't even think I found out till I got home how he was doing.
And, you know, back in those days, it wasn't like they went completely solid live the whole time.
Right.
They would cut in and out, and
Right.
you'd see some clips of it, and then they would come out of it, and they'd go back to other, and then they'd come back to it.
Right.
I just remember seeing a Secret Service agent from nowhere, an automatic weapon just appears.
Yeah, you didn't see that every day on the TV.
No, you don't. But,
Right.
amazing, that was something else to see that unfold, to hear it unfold.
Mm-hmm.
Then that dial tone thing, like, wow, okay, that's to this day that stands out. Waiting on a dial tone because the phones are always are being in use. Like, wow, okay.
And the thing about that incident I always remember is James Brady. I mean, he got the worst end of all of it.
It's a shame that people have to feel compelled to do something like that. You can disagree with someone's politics, but Hinckley did it to impress Jodie Foster.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with politics. Yeah, he was trying to impress Jodie Foster, right?
That worked out for him.
Right.
Well, how about you? What's another one?
Let me move on. And this I remember very, very well. It was cold morning, 10th grade. I was at High Point High School in Beltsville. I was in gym class. And the entire school, other than us, I think, were watching the space shuttle go up.
Okay.
And so this is January 28th, 1986.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine had his headphones on. It was such an 80s thing, but he had his Richard Alexander was his name. And I remember him just pulling his headphones down and saying, "The Challenger just blew up." Or he said, no, he didn't say. He said, "The space shuttle just blew up." Mm-hmm. And I just looked at him. And I was like, what? At that time, the Challenger or the space shuttle had gone up a number of times. And they didn't show it as much on the news anymore. It wasn't a big, spectacular thing. But this time it was because Krista McCullough was the teacher, and she was going up, so a lot of kids were watching it. And even though I wasn't watching it at the time, I think you were, right?
I was, yeah. I went to Montgomery College, MC, affectionately called it, up in Germantown. Had an apartment close by, so I would head home for lunch on certain days because I had that time gap between classes.
Right.
So I kicked on the TV, see what was on the news. And they were showing the live, launch of the shuttle. It's like, oh, cool. Because of Krista being on it, it was a first. Right. So it's getting all the coverage. So they do the countdown, it goes up, and, that famous go for throttle up, and you watched it. And at first you're like, okay, what is that? Something, nope, that's not supposed to happen. There was talk of a pod. There were, as we all know how it unfolded. But it was I didn't go back to class that day. I stayed home just watching the news. I was mesmerized by it. Like, there's got to be some hope. And then as it progressed, no, there wasn't. It's like you felt like the whole space program just stopped.
I guess there were 7 people on board on that.
Was it 7?
That fleet, if I remember, yeah.
Yeah, that's just shocking. That just left you like, whoa.
Yeah.
You felt that loss.
Mm-hmm.
But, one that stood out to me, I'm going to go back in time a little bit further, is August 16th, 1977. My mom,
I know where you're going with this, yeah.
Beautiful late summer day.
Mm-hmm.
My mom drags me from playing outside with my friends to the Safeway parking lot over in Adelphi.
That's Meserat Plaza. That's my plaza growing up.
She, for whatever reason, you need to come shopping with me. So I talked to her to let me stay in the car. I mean, why did I even go at that point? So I had an older brother, so I had to kick the key back to accessory in the car. So I'm listening to the radio, and what do I hear? Elvis Presley's died. And for me, Elvis was an Adonis. I mean, you got to say the man was an Adonis. The jet black hair, the moves. He had everything that the ladies wanted, and you wanted to be like Elvis because he just had that. He had everything it took. I mean, it was like, and growing up for us, Janis Joplin passed away in our lifetime, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, but we were young. We were not old enough yet to understand the significance. For me, Elvis was the first musician to pass away. And that hit me in the car, like, how could Elvis be dead? He's not 40. That was old to me, but not that old. How could Elvis?
I still remember we were down in North Carolina. I guess I was 6 years old, and I remember when I first heard it, we were watching the news. It was on that night, and I was in to me, Elvis was bigger than a celebrity. He was like almost a character. I almost didn't know he was real. Whenever I heard Elvis, it was just almost like he was a character.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, wow, I just couldn't believe Elvis that this whatever character had passed away.
Yeah, that was the start of that learning. I don't know, innocence lost. Can you
Yeah,
call it that? Because they didn't die. What do you
right,
heard about Hendrix and that didn't? Okay, but that's Pat Elvis. No, he has everything. What music, sing?
right.
How does Elvis die? So
That's
it's
right.
like that shocking. Like wow. So yeah, that I was in the parking lot at Safeway.
All right. Well, look, it's great talking about all these things that we remember from the 70s and 80s. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your moment that you remember something just so clearly like we do. Now, we probably got some of the details wrong, but let us know. We want to hear from you. Tell us all about that. Also, we want to hear from you as far as other shows in the future. This show came because of a friend of mine I went to High Point with, Mark Little. He suggested this topic. So,
Yeah.
you pick a topic, the next one might be from you.
Well, thanks everyone for viewing.
All
Appreciate
right, we will see you on the next edition.
Hit the like button and share it. If you're enjoying what we're doing, share it so other people can enjoy this because we're having a blast doing this. So
Yep.
we want to pull you into our madness.